Unfortunately, there's still a lot of noise. I got knocked offline a second ago, so I'm hoping you guys can hear me. And I'll wait for everyone to show up here. Hopefully people will show up here in a second. Trying to get everything squared away here so I can get a decent shot of everything. All right. Oh boy, here comes all the noise. Well, hopefully it won't be too bad. Hopefully these guys will leave me alone. Hey, what's up, Steve? Sorry about that, man. I just got knocked offline. I'm at the park. Unfortunately, it looks like I'm interfering with the landscaper people. As usual, I'm not able to be somewhere where it's conducive to me doing what I want to do. All right. Hey, what's happening, Steve? No, Colt. I don't know who the lawyer dog is. Are you talking about the left-wing commie who tries to pretend like he's a libertarian? Is that the guy? Yeah, I don't really care about that guy. He doesn't have anything substantive to bring to the conversation. All right, so again, I am attorney Michael Ehline. I am a lawyer licensed to practice law in Texas and California. I've been practicing law for a little over 20 years, and prior to that, I was a paralegal. And now this freaking noise is, hopefully you guys aren't being too disturbed by this noise. So I got this dude back here doing his job. If you don't mind the noise of this dude, I'll try to keep doing the show. What do you guys think? Give me a bunch of ones if you can hear me. No, I'm a natural born citizen, so I'm a free man born upon the land, and I believe in my unalienable rights that were granted by my Creator, as evidenced by the Bill of Rights and the statements of our founding fathers, including but not limited to Thomas Jefferson, John Jay, and so on and so forth. So let me see if I can. And this noise is really, it's almost like I feel like these guys come here on purpose, right, guys? Okay, so all right. Well, I'm going to get a little bit closer to the camera. Can you guys hear me? Next time I come here, I'm going to have to pay these guys to not use their weed eater. All right, so I had an opportunity to watch my right honorable colleague Patrice Darcy's video where he breaks down Chille DeCastro's lawsuit against Judge Zimmerman. And I'm not here to denigrate him in any way other than to say, Patrick, get to the gym, dude. Take care of yourself. Us litigators have a real low life expectancy, and it looks like you packed on a little bit of body fat. And I think that you need to really watch that diet, drink more water, get into the creatine and the glutamine, and start doing resistance training. It's really, really important. And look, I packed on a little bit too, as you can see, from my sciatica, but I'm doing everything that I can to do the high protein and work out. And we need you, man, because we need a counterpoint. We need a counterpoint always. You can't just only have one point of view. So, and then forward observation fans. What were you, Anglico or something? He's asking me about my favorite crayons, and it says forward observation, so I'm assuming you were an FO. My dad was an 0848. I was an 0311 designee, and I was injured and boarded out medically. But I definitely give the Marine Corps credit for teaching me discipline and reinforcing what I was taught by my father, which is to always behave honorably and to do the right thing. And so, hey, Rami, good seeing you. Hey, what's the matter you? Awesome. So are we buffering right now, guys? Yeah, I got knocked off a few minutes ago, and I have like major, hold on a second, let me see what's going on here. So, yeah, am I fishing? Definitely that's Wassa. So Wassa, please resend me the link, by the way. Jiminy Christmas. I gotta find another place to do the show. These guys are loud as hell. Let me see if I can relocate, guys. Work with me, okay? Stand by. Platoon. Platoon. I'm gonna try to relocate to another area where there's less freaking doggone small arms fire going off. Hold on 1 second, guys. Let me get my ruck on. Nope. Oh, unset. Stand by. So one of the things that I do that's a lot different than most lawyers you're going to meet is that I try and incorporate physical fitness into a lot of my shows, because I want to encourage you guys, especially you old codgers, that even if your back's messed up like mine, that you can still train and you can still hit the gym and you can find other alternative ways to get in shape. So let me see if I can find another place to sit down where I can go over some of this stuff that's less noisy. All right. And I appreciate y'all being patient. Thanks for being patient with me. Looks like I found another spot for me to break all this stuff down for you. Beautiful day here in Summerlin, Nevada, by the way. Because I'm only in this world for you guys. So it's the way we're going to do it. All right, seems a little less noisy over here, so give me a second. All right. How do you guys like that? A little less sun? Yeah, you're right. And Rami, I would like to know more about any exercises that you have that you think is going to help me with my sciatica. Because just sitting here right now, I'm going to put my left leg up on the seat, elevating my leg on the seat, kind of sitting sideways. Thanks, Wassa. It definitely helps. So I have been hitting the gym, just so you guys know. Let's OTVO, and make sure to double tap and hit that like and subscribe button. I have been hitting the gym again. I went back on a high protein diet. I'll admit that I was getting into the depression thing where I was drinking Cokes and stuff like that, and you can see it in my face, like right there, holding a lot of water. But I've been hitting the gym again. I've been going to Powerhouse. I've got my bench back up to 315 for 6, which is pretty impressive. But I'm not able to train legs. At least I can't do squats or deadlifts. I can't do toe touchers. It just lights my whole left leg on fire. So what I've been doing is just leg extensions, leg curls, and anything that I can do without causing that L5 to blow back up again like a balloon. Now, let me see here. Somebody had asked a question, why don't I run for office? Send in the Marines, yeah. Why don't I run for office? Oh, by the way, forward observation fan, so when I was in the Marine Corps, that crayon thing didn't exist. Just like when my dad was in, they didn't have the oorah thing. Okay, that was a new thing to my dad when he showed up for my graduation and heard everybody yelling oorah and all that stuff. He couldn't understand what any of that crap meant. Eventually he adapted to it and started saying oorah, but he couldn't even say it right because, he didn't go to wasn't in my series in my time back in 88, 89. So I don't really have a favorite color of crayon. I don't eat crayons. Stand by 1 second, guys. Let me, been taking these ons to try and defeat the biotechnology that they're trying to put in our food and kill us with. So All right, so let's get into it really quick. Let's get into the big shoe for today. And thank you for joining me. It's a beautiful day today in Summerlin, Nevada. I'm at a park. I found some shade. Here, I'll give you guys a little view of what's going on so you can kind of see where I'm at. Super beautiful out here. There's a swimming pool over there. People with their dogs all checking me out. Probably want to sniff me. And so I'll come here at like 04 sometimes and work out, do some pull-ups. It's all poison. That's right, Rami. And I'm having a hard time saying cran. Yeah, K-ran. Can't even say cran. That's right. All right, hold on. And yes, this is pink. This is my wife's, but trust me, I only like chicks. And so this has glutamine and creatine in it. Hey, what's going on, Salangarl 69, and what's going on? Let's go for dat. I don't know what that means, but it sounds interesting. All right, so first of all, I did get an opportunity to watch, again, my colleague, my right honorable colleague, Patrick Darcy, and I'm on good terms with the guy. I don't have any problem with him. I'm not the kind of guy who wants to denigrate someone or tear him down unless they're a real prick, piece of garbage, and I don't see that with him. I see that he has a different point of view on Chille DeCastro and Chille DeCastro's cases. Yeah, it is a great day to be alive. That's right, Let's OTVO. And, well, let me ask you this, Let's Go for Dat, because this is my show. I want you to say, what do cows drink 3 times? No, actually, strike that. I want you to spell spot 3 times. Say it out loud, and then I want you to type in the answer. Say spot 3 times, and say it S-P-O-T, S-P-O-T, S-P-O-T. Say it 3 times really quick. Can you do that for me? S-P-O-T, S-P-O-T, S-P-O-T. And then I want you to type in your answer, what do you do when you come to a green light? Type it in really quick. Do it. Do it now, move. Hurry up. You're going too slow. And I may have given you too much time to think by letting you. So you stop. You stop. Yeah, okay. So you got... Well, if you do it verbally, it's a great joke. It's people will say, spot. No, you don't spot when you come to a green light. But so L Slice put stop. So you kind of got the joke at least. So there's great ways you can confuse people. The same thing you could say, spell water 3 times. I'm sorry, spell milk 3 times. M-I-L-K, M-I-L-K, M-I-L-K. You don't stop when you come to a green light, guys. You go. All right, so let's do another one. What a cow... Okay, spell milk 3 times. M-I-L-K, M-I-L-K, M-I-L-K. Do it. Well, you got it right. What's the matter with you? And I'm giving you guys a break because I'm letting you type it. But verbally, it's a lot more confusing. So say it again. What do cows drink? Type the answer in. Do it. Hurry up. You only got... Too late. You already lost. All right. So you already lost. Sorry. All right. So Chille DeCastro. Let's get into it. Salangirl 69. Muddy water. All right. So Chille DeCastro is a buddy of mine. I think he is the original green or black Power Ranger. He goes back that far. Chille DeCastro is somebody who believes in holding the government accountable, and he's been falsely arrested and falsely accused of crimes many times. And you're right, Simba B, cows drink water. So that's right, cows drink water, they don't drink milk. But I just wanted to have some fun with you guys. So Chille DeCastro is a, I think he used to be called the First Amendment auditor, but I think he likes to be called a government accountability advocate, which is what I am. I'm a government accountability advocate. Well, L Slice, that is a bad answer because it's non-responsive to the question. So objection, non-responsive. All right. So Chille was falsely arrested twice in Nevada. One for entering into a service station with caution tape after he'd been ushered in to that area. And so he was told by the police, you can go into this area, and then he was arrested for being in an area with caution tape. So definitely a setup. And I covered this story with a retired cop who is a whistleblower, and we broke that down. So that's one of the arrests. And the other one that had to do with Judge Zimmerman was a situation where he was in a private parking lot and he was filming a traffic stop of a female who was being stopped, and he was just filming it and he was trying to ask questions, and this police officer didn't like it and told him to step back, and he did step back, but I guess he didn't step back far enough or fast enough, and he was falsely arrested. And when he showed up in court, a bailiff snatched a phone out of his hand, which is a battery. It's absolutely a battery, after the judge ordered him to hand him his phone. So the judge wanted Chille to hand him his phone, and the judge Chille didn't want to do that. He tried to hand it to the prosecutor, an officer of the court, and the judge didn't like it, and commanded basically the bailiff or the marshal or the sheriff deputy, whatever they call him in Nevada, to seize Chille's phone, and he snatched it out of Chille's hand, and that's called a battery. That is a harmful and offensive touching or taking. And Chille called this guy a pig. And so basically Judge Zimmerman didn't like that, and Judge Zimmerman found Chille guilty at his trial. And Let's TVO says that Judge Zimmerman took his phone as well. Well, that's amazing. I didn't know that, Let's TVO. Well, it was a publicly accessible private parking lot. Okay, Rose, that's fair. In any event, Chille was locked up for about 4 months. All these frauditor guys were so happy. They were so thrilled that Chille got falsely convicted and falsely arrested. And ultimately, I was able to visit Chille and give him just that, ability to know that people are thinking about him and share things with him about what people were saying out there in the world about his fans. And I helped him run his channel until he was able to get released, because he won his appeal, which we all knew he was going to win his appeal. At least I knew he was going to win his appeal. I was 100% confident. Well, I was never 100%. In my mind, in my soul, I was, but I could never publicly say he's absolutely going to win, because, you never know. You never know how a 3-judge panel or an appellate judge is going to rule on anything, because judges are human beings and they have different opinions. So, hey, Mr. Osgood, good seeing you. So ultimately what ended up happening is Chille won that case on appeal, and the other case was dropped. So that just tells you, I think that the city prosecutor knew that he wasn't that this dog wasn't gonna hunt. So, and then ultimately these frauditor people made a lot of false statements about Chille, about his background, about alleged crimes and things that he had done in the past. And these same frauditor people made false and defamatory statements about me and allowed their audience to republish, and they're still on their websites, things like I was disbarred or suspended from the bar, which is a lie. I've never been disbarred or suspended from the bar ever. And they also made statements that because I wear my Marine Corps cover, and I proudly wear it, that's a violation of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and that I'm in violation of the UCMJ, which is also not true. And they've never issued a retraction. They've also said that I was dishonorably discharged, that I was never a Marine, which is also a lie. And so they've defamed me and placed me in a false light. And they actually sent people to my law office, wrote at least 20 or 30 fake reviews about me on the internet, and I was able to get their IP addresses, and so I know who these people are, and I don't think they realize what they've done. In any event, Chille had the balls to actually sue these guys for defamation for what they said about him. So what we're going to do first is we're going to talk about the Judge Zimmerman case. I'm not going to break down. Yeah, they said that I was guilty of stolen valor for wearing my Marine Corps cover under the UCMJ. So just so you guys know, again, I've got 20 years experience as an attorney, and I started out as an appellate attorney, and I externed for the California Court of Appeal. I know a little bit about the law, just a little bit. And I know a lot about military law, and Most of my friends are combat veterans. Several of my friends are retired Navy SEALs. And we all wear our covers, and we wear our devices when we go to the Marine Corps birthday and stuff like that, even when we're not wearing full uniform. And why is that? Because we're not active duty, so we're not subject to the UCMJ unless we were wearing our uniforms for the purpose of trying to deceive someone into thinking that we're still active duty. And I think you guys can tell by the way I look when I've got my cover on that there's no confusion. It's obvious that I'm no longer an active duty Marine. I'm a 70% disabled Marine, and I've had knee surgery, and now I have sciatica, and I'm terrified to get my rating increased because I don't want to become 100% unemployable, because then I'll lose the ability to support my family and live off a tiny amount of money from Marine Corps disability, which won't be enough to feed my family. So unfortunately, that's how it works now, guys. So let's get into what's happened with Chille. So Patrick sort of broke down his view and opinion of Chille's complaints. And what I'm going to do is, yeah, that's all they do, Solid Girl. They just throw a bunch of false accusations, and they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Yes, and you're right, but L Slice, it's not called a hat. It's called a cover in the Marine Corps. But you can call it a hat now, I guess, because I'm a civilian, but I'll still call it a cover. All right, so basically, he brought a defamation claim against, let me see here. I'm going to take a look. So I have a copy of the lawsuit. So we'll cover the defamation claim first. And it looks like he brought this thing unbelievably pro per. So, and he brought it as a California resident. And he brought this defamation claim against Joshua Abrams, also known as Accountability for All, against Dale Hiller, also known as Lackluster, against Kate Peter, also known as Masshole Mafia or Troll Mafia Official, and he brought it against them for defamatory conduct that was directed into Massachusetts as well as other states. And it appears as though he was able to prove diversity, which means there's diversity between the parties, which means there are some defendants, one defendant that lives in Massachusetts, he's a plaintiff in California, and there's another defendant that lives in another state. Let me take a look here. Just want to make sure. Okay. Sorry guys, I'm sort of shooting from the hip today. I'm not in front of my regular computer. I'm sitting at a park bench trying to enjoy God's green earth and bringing a show to you guys. So he's saying that after Memorial Day, all of these defendants apparently appeared in a live stream hosted by Abrams and made numerous false statements and malicious statements about Chille. They stated, to wit, that when Chille was at a friend's house in New Hampshire, that he kicked a friend out, and told them to go stay in a hotel and then use their home to do drugs, and that Abrams also claimed that somebody found drug paraphernalia scattered throughout the house that Chille was in and kicked Chille out, and accused Chille of creating fake app screen designs called pillow poppers, yada, yada, yada. Anyways, it's all online. I don't want to get into everything. Yes, a picnic table. That's right, Dale has picnic. I guess it's racist to say picnic now as well. And anyways, all of these allegations were defamatory and false. Abrams allegedly accused Chille of using his credit card without permission to pay for a hotel room. And then Chille produced bank records showing that's not true. He also got statements from these alleged victims, who are also military vets, declarations under penalty of perjury that all the stuff that Abrams saying was a lie. Let's see, what else? He's talking about an electronic payment that they're saying that was also theft. And then Abrams also edited video footage of an interaction between another defendant, Kate Peter, in a misleading way, which would give rise to a false light claim. That's right, everything's racist now unless you're a Democrat, right? Amiel Elizabeth 71. It's crazy, right? Doesn't make any sense to me either. But they're trying to target anything as a hate crime to get it declared illegal unless it goes along with their political ideology, just like they're doing in the United Kingdom and Australia and in France. And if you disagree, they'll use lawfare to try to have you thrown in prison. That's how it works. So let's get into the next one. So, defendant Hiller stated there's a lot of victims, he has proof, and hopefully more will be revealed, which was a deliberately vague and ominous assertion. They also say that he engaged in physical abuse towards women, but didn't specify who the victims were. So that would be also part of what's called the false light claim. I'm not going to get too far into all the allegations, but suffice it to say that Chille's alleging that Kate Peter said that Chille engages in blackmail and extortion and threats a lot, and that he engages in Ponzi schemes or a Ponzi scheme. I guess she's a female, Kate Peter. And Chille is alleging in his complaint that without any evidence or doing any due diligence, she made these statements. And let's see here. Now, Hiller has been previously sued for defamation in the case of Goetz versus Hiller. And Goetz alleged that Hiller falsely identified him on social media as an officer who had made an obscene gesture during a protest. The case concluded with a settlement in that case, so looks like this person's not having a whole lot of luck. Probably should have learned from her first defamation lawsuit. So there's going to be some noise. This guy's coming through here with a blower. So anyways, Chille is saying that each defendant acted with malice or reckless disregard for the truth, which would be enough to, if they were arguing that Chille is a public figure, which he probably is, under the New York Times versus Sullivan case, to at least withstand a summary judgment. In other words, without allowing the judge to dismiss the case. And I'm just trying to go through here some more stuff here for you. It's getting noisy again. Sorry guys, I keep moving around, but these guys just want to follow me and make noise. Chille is arguing that this caused harm to his reputation. And so, in my opinion, he's basically he's laid out a proper basis to bring a defamation and false light claim based on this information. I get no respect. What am I going to say, huh? I get no respect over here, huh? Hey. Oh, I don't know. I don't know, L Slice. I have no idea. It's all just nonsense. Here, let's watch him some more. And I got no animus against the guy. He's just doing his job. I have a background in construction, so I get it. No issues with me, guys. I don't know, L Slice. I heard from some BLM supporter that we can't use the word picnic because it's racist, and We have to change our vocabulary so we can accommodate their delusions of grandeur, that because they're professional victims, so we have to accommodate their need to get a lot of attention, be loud and obnoxious and cause trouble, and it's all our fault, right? Well, I'm sitting here trying to make a living and I could care less. It's not like I sit around plotting against these people, trying to, you know, whatever they think that we're doing. Good seeing you, football beast. All right, so in support of his, hey, sweet tea, good seeing you. In support of Chille's complaint for defamation. Oh, by the way, so it looks like Chille would have been past the statute of limitations to bring a defamation claim in Nevada or California. So it looks like that Massachusetts has a 3-year statute of limitations. So it appears as though he'll be able to succeed, at least at the preliminary stage, in his defamation claim. So let's really quickly, I'm just going to read excerpts of the declarations in support of Chille's motion. So one of the declarations says, and I'm going to paraphrase this, that Chille rarely drank alcohol, that he had a spare room for Chille, that they shared a meal, and that him and Chille had business while Chille was in New Hampshire. They shook hands, and Chille declined staying another night and ended up, I guess, staying at a hotel. And then later he was made aware of this witness of a video circulating that misrepresents what took place. And this is a guy who these frauditor people are saying Chille did this to. So you've got the actual person that they're saying did this to Chille, that Chille did all these bad things to, saying that it never happened. And he will also provide witness statements from other people in the home who will also affirm what he's saying. And this guy's a military vet. And then there's another one who's also a military vet who says that he had a 30-minute phone conversation regarding an app that he was working on, and that he worked with Chille, and that he was aware that Josh Abrams was listening in, I guess, on a phone conversation, and that this, you see here, at no time did he create or design any application screens for Chille. It never happened, and that Chille never received a large investment sum or anything like that. So basically all the stuff that was things that were being alleged by these frauditor guys, according to these witnesses, were basically just fabricated, right? And so this stuff was put out all over the internet, and it definitely damaged Chille's reputation. I mean, even myself, when I saw this stuff, I was like, man, I can't believe Chille would do this. It's out of character. I have a hard time believing this, but it's hard not to believe it when so many people say it. So even in my mind, Chille's reputation was damaged at that point. So I'm just letting you know that I would be willing to testify as a witness that Chille's reputation was definitely damaged in my eyes. All right, so the next issue is Chille DeCastro's lawsuit against Judge Zimmerman. All right, so Chille DeCastro, so whether or not, strike that. Let's get into the Massachusetts case really quick. So whether or not Chille can succeed in his defamation and false light claims is really going to hinge on, number one, can he prove damages? And that's not always easy to prove in a defamation case, although damages can be presumed under defamation, slander per se, and libel per se. In other words, if it was something saying that you're like a child predator or you engaged in fraud, something like that, then damages can be presumed. Okay, so that makes it much more difficult for these defendants to win the defamation claim. Now, the only issue that I would have is I personally would never bring a defamation case pro se, because I want to get the attorney's fees. And your biggest damages, really, even though they're not called damages, are the attorney's fees. The attorney's fees are what put leverage on the defendant to settle. Hey, good seeing you, Greg B. So remember that if you're going to bring a defamation claim, it's good to have a lawyer, because the attorney's fees are huge. Now, if Chille loses, if this was California or Texas, then he would be liable for their attorney's fees if they were able to get an attorney to represent them. But I would say it would be very difficult. I would not handle a case like this for someone like that unless they paid me an upfront retainer. These defamation cases are very tough to win. So, slinging insults, to answer your question, Amy Elizabeth 71, are a lot different than defaming someone. So defamation is a knowing false statement when it was within your ability to obtain the truth and you failed to conduct a reasonable investigation to determine the truth and just made these statements and didn't state them as an opinion but stated them as a fact. And that's what these guys did based upon my opinion. So I think that they're in hot water, man. Like, I would not want to be in their shoes at all, especially with a guy like Chille, because he's a pit bull, man. He's not going to let go. I know this guy. He's an animal. So I kind of feel bad for these guys in a way, because I don't think he's going to give any quarter. I think he's going to be like General Santana in the Battle of the Alamo. I think they're in a heap of trouble, and I think that their only chance, JP Kitchen, so these frauditor guys, like they've defamed me, not these particular ones, at least not that I can recall, but I think Frauditor Patrol allowed people to make defamatory statements on his channel about me, saying that I was dishonorably discharged, that I'm engaged in stolen valor for wearing my Marine Corps cover, even though I'm an honorably discharged disabled Marine. So that's called what you call libel and slander per se. So he allowed that to be republished on his channel. He thinks it's funny. He had this complete idiot guest come on and try to say that I'm a violation of the UCMJ, trying to slander my honor. So something like that is definitely problematic for people like that. So that would be the difference. And kind of like what they're doing to Lane now, Simba B. Yeah, I would say that's a fair statement. Making statements that are untrue, knowingly false statements. But the problem is when you're a public figure, it's more difficult to prove defamation. You have to add the additional element of malice. And yeah, I don't know, call Lackluster a frauditor and see what happens to your channel. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm generalizing it. I don't know enough about, and again, I said this at the beginning of the show. I don't really know who the frauditor guy is. I just know there's a bunch of people out there who consider themselves to be frauditors, who don't like Chille. I think I've seen Lackluster's show, and I think I liked most of his content. And so again, I'm just repeating what is in Chille's pleadings. So I don't really have any issue. If you're a government accountability guy, that's what I'm all about. So no harm intended there if you think that I'm trying to disparage someone who believes in holding the government accountable. And so when I'm making these statements, what I'm saying is these frauditor guys, like Frauditor Patrol, for example, in my opinion, have engaged in defamation against me. And does anybody... Yeah, I'm not really... You know what? Let me see here. Yeah, so anyways, I don't want to get too far into it. I'm just repeating what I know from the complaint. And I think that, again, based on... I think I've watched Lackluster's show a couple of times, and I think that I liked his content, actually. So, and again, I know there's a lot of guys that I follow and a lot of people that I like that Chille doesn't like, and it's vice versa. So don't put me into the category that I'm automatically not going to like someone because the person that I like doesn't. That's not where I go. And Susan Beckett, I think you might be right. She says that Lackluster is very informative and the best content online. Look, I don't know enough about Lackluster. I'm just going to say that he has been put into the category by a lot of people that I've listened to online as these frauditor guys. So that's all I have to say about that. But let's get on to the, and Lackluster, if you're the same guy that I think you are, I think I've actually been on your channel and maybe even donated money. So again, I didn't even know about any of this stuff until I read the complaint this morning. So I guess I have to sort of operate under the presumption that if people are saying that you're a frauditor guy, I don't know. Again, I'm not even making an opinion or an absolute affirmative statement that that's the case. What I will say is that if the statements in Chille DeCastro's lawsuit are true, that I would say that it would be advisable, if I was the lawyer handling the case, to try and settle. Now, yeah, and Sly Shy 58, yeah, I'm not trying to open up some kind of a hornet's nest with this particular person, because I think that I actually like a lot of the content on this guy's channel. I'm trying to actually just present facts from this case and just let you guys know that this is how it goes. Right, so Zane Johnson says, I support Chille even though... Okay, well... yeah, I don't know about all that. In any event, let's just get back into the facts. I'm reading all these comments, and it just seems like there's a lot of mudslinging going on. So let's get into Chille DeCastro lawsuits against Judge Ann Zimmerman. Okay, so the next issue is going to be the claims against Judge Zimmerman. So, and I'm not even going to get into the Las Vegas Police Department claims. I'm going to go just strictly against Ann Zimmerman. So I've told you guys before that I think it's really, really difficult to sue a judge because they have absolute immunity. And I covered this in another one of my shows. Greg B says there's mudslinging on every 1A channel. That's probably true. I try not to get into mudslinging against people who support the same causes as me. Case in point, you know, there were a lot of things that I felt Lane was doing that were getting him into a lot of trouble with respect to the way he behaved in court, but I still support Lane. So it doesn't mean, and same with Lackluster, if he supports government accountability and he is pro-Second Amendment, pro-First Amendment, then, you know, I'm going to support him based upon that stuff. But obviously if he's defamed someone and presented facts, presented opinions as if they were facts, well, I would tell him, hey man, that's a huge mistake, dude, because now you're going to have to deal with somebody like Chille, and the guy just won't let go. So my advice would be to try and settle, or definitely issue retractions. That's something that I hope that these guys who made these false statements about me do, is at least they're smart enough to issue retractions, because that would go a long way in me deciding whether or not I want to bring claims against these guys. So again, as I told you at the beginning, everything that I say here about other people is based upon my opinions and not factual statements that are absolutely true. In other words, I'm not saying that Frauditor or Zimmerman or any of these people are guilty or liable for any of these things, because again, there's three sides to every story: your side, my side, and the truth. And that's just the way it's always going to be, guys. And so USA Badass says that Lackluster is righteous. I'll have to go check out his channel again. I think I know who he is. I think he's the guy. I think I've actually had a couple of decent interactions with Lackluster. So, you know, I'll withhold judgment about Lackluster, about anything other than I'll limit it to what I have in the complaint that I've read. And if the allegations are true that Chille DeCastro is making, then I would say that Lackluster is going to have some trouble with this case. So the next issue is going to be the Ann Zimmerman case. So what we'll get into here is Chille DeCastro's lawsuits against Judge Zimmerman. So she primarily is suing Judge Zimmerman based upon my understanding is, right, Dale Hess, that's right, primarily for defamation and civil rights. Now, my thought on this one is these cases are going to definitely face significant legal hurdles, making their likelihood of success pretty low. I mean, I'm just going to be honest with you. I think that based upon the allegations presented in the lawsuits against Lackluster and these other defendants, that the case against the judge is going to be pretty tough to win. And any defamation case is tough to win. And again, I've got a lot of experience in defamation law, false light claims. I've won a couple of anti-SLAPP claims on appeal. So I'm pretty good at this stuff. Hey, good seeing you live under the microscope. All right, so let's get into the allegations here. So I'm going to go ahead and just evaluate what I think the chances are of him succeeding against Judge Zimmerman. Oh, right. I like West Virginia and Southern law draw as well. Southern draw law. I think that he's really good, Mr. Tomei 73. Definitely a legit dude. At one time, him and I did talk about doing some shows together. Jeffrey Payne says, why is it Marines make such good attorneys? Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that Marines in general just make good people because we have a very high standard of which we try to conduct ourselves. We're very convicted in our beliefs. And so that's why, again, I'm not going to sit here and say everything that Chille does is right or everything that Lane does is right. I'm not going to say that Lackluster is liable or guilty of anything. But I will say is the allegations in the complaint look pretty bad for him. But Lackluster has the right and duty to defend himself. And if Lackluster is the guy who I think he is, I actually think that I like a lot of his content. And I think I'm subscribed to his channel. So you can see that I'm not the kind of guy who is just going to blindly follow anybody. I'm definitely my own man, something my dad didn't like about me. He always used to tell me, you march to the beat of your own drummer. And unfortunately, I've lost a lot of friends because of that, because I won't just jump on the bandwagon and support what they want to do. I want to make sure that if I'm going to support you, that it's because I have a strong conviction that you're in the right. And thanks, Jeff. I appreciate that, sir. So Lackluster, don't hold it against me if I said anything to hurt your feelings. Although I don't appreciate this person on my channel telling me you're going to try and do something to hurt my YouTube channel. That would definitely be a problem. But based on what I know about you, I don't think you're that kind of person that would want to try and harm someone who's trying to present the facts. So in any event, let's get into this. So the context of Chille's claims incorporate relevant details that arose out of his 2 false arrests. Now, Gloria Ad says she does not like Lackluster, and I have to withhold judgment on whether I like Lackluster as a person or not, because I just don't know enough about his interactions with you or Chille, but I'm pretty sure I like a lot of the content on Lackluster's channel. I don't know. But it looks like a lot of people don't like him for whatever reason. I'm getting a bunch of boos. So, okay, before I get into the Ann Zimmerman case, why is it that you guys don't seem to like Lackluster? What is it about Lackluster? Because it sounds like Lackluster is in support of the auditor community. And I invite Lackluster to come in on the chat if he wants to. I mean, as far as I know, he hasn't been suspended from the channel. By all means, present your side of the story if you want. So you can see the difference between me and guys like Merv is I'm not going to sit here and attack someone and say that they're a terrible person, try to insult them and say that they were dishonorably discharged or anything like that, right? I'm going to try and find out what their side of the story is. But I definitely would like to know. So I'll continue on with Ann, and look, if Lackluster wants to come on my show and present his side of the story, if he wants to, that's fine. The problem that I've found is that when I support someone like Chille, I find that people automatically hate me. And I just don't think that's the right approach. I don't think you're guilty by association. And I'm more along with Amy Elizabeth, that I like all channels. I've learned a lot about protecting my rights from watching these videos. Yeah, and Mr. Tomei says that Lackluster is professional. Gosh, I'm just trying to remember who this guy is. But I'm pretty sure, is he the bald dude that was filming the crackhead lady that was living in the tool shed? If that's the guy, I loved the guy's show. And I think that I've even donated money to the channel. So again, you guys, I just want you to understand I'm not coming out here to advocate for anybody or try and like damage someone's reputation or feelings. I'm just trying, but I definitely do not like these frauditor guys. I think they're scum. I think that anybody who would cheer for someone being falsely imprisoned and jailed is a piece of shit. So I don't like that. I don't think that that should be something that we are ever happy about. And I definitely don't like it when people try and disparage my military service. I think they're pieces of shit as well. And I'd love to meet them in a dark alley for sure. But beyond that, yeah, we're fine. All right, so let's get into the... Jeff Hates Pigs has a different point of view. So let's get into the Ann Zimmerman claim. That's right, Let's OTVO, real scum, absolutely. Yeah, and I don't like the ones that dictate. So I guess his name is Dale Hess, and all I know is that there is a lawsuit against him, and I guess it's been brought in Massachusetts, and based upon the allegations in the complaint, it appears as though he did engage in defamation, libel, and slander per se against Chille, assuming that the allegations are true. If the allegations aren't true, he'll be able to defend against that, and that wouldn't be an issue. Now, and if he had a lawyer, then he could make a counterclaim for attorney's fees if he wins. So that could be problematic for Chille. So, and Gloria Ad says the allegations are true. Well, the trier of fact or the judge, depending on if they have a trial by judge, would be the ultimate arbiter of those facts. So I can only pretend like I'm the judge and presume they're true for purposes of whether or not I'm going to sustain the complaint. I'm just reading some comments here. All right. So, and I don't really know everything that went down with this, so I don't want you guys to think that I'm here trying to be a cheerleader. And then it says here, D's Nuts says, if Chille loses, how would he collect? Not possible. Oh, thanks, Dar. I appreciate that. And D's Nuts, I love your name. D's Nuts 1965. That's pretty good. And Dar, I appreciate you saying that about me. And Potter's Rights Media, thanks for joining my channel this morning. All right, so basically, just break it down really quick. So Chille is a YouTuber, and he is a self-proclaimed, or used to be a self-proclaimed First Amendment auditor. I think now he calls himself a government accountability advocate. And I consider Chille to be a friend. I care about the guy. I didn't like it that he was locked up. And I'm sure that if what you guys are saying about Lackluster, I probably would be Lackluster's friend too. I just don't know enough to be able to form anything more than an opinion. I can't make a fact-based assertion of truth or falsity at this point. But reading the complaint, it looks pretty bad. That's all I can tell you. Anyways. Now, Chille was convicted in March 4th by the Las Vegas justice system, by Justice of the Peace Ann Zimmerman, for obstructing a police officer and resisting arrest during a traffic stop in March of 2023. He was sentenced to 180 days in jail. I think it was 180 days. And he called the bailiff a pig because the bailiff snatched a phone out of his hand. Now, Jeff Hates Pig says that Lackluster plays both sides for profit. One thing that I would say, Jeff Hates Pigs, is making definitive statements about someone could be considered defamatory. So I would say that it's my opinion that he plays both sides for profit. I'm just trying to help you guys understand. And then you too, Lackluster, and you other guys that are auditors and people that do these shows, you should always say that in your opinion. You'd never want to make a direct statement that absolutely accuses someone unless you know for a fact that they've done this, like you've got it on camera or tape and you can prove it. Otherwise, you're looking at some serious trouble because you're gonna run across somebody like Chille who's gonna sue you. So the judge imposed a more strict jail sentence on Chille than the prosecutor's recommended probation. And Chille called Judge Zimmerman a tyrant and urged his supporters to petition for his release. And he threatened to sue her throughout the pendency of all of these actions. His conviction was ultimately overturned in July 2024 by Judge Michelle Leavitt, who ruled the case involved the First Amendment protected conduct. And now DeCastro has filed a federal lawsuit against Zimmerman and others seeking over $69 million in damages for alleged defamation, malicious prosecution, and constitutional violations. Now, the problem that Chille's going to face in his lawsuit against Zimmerman is that judges enjoy absolute judicial immunity for actions taken in their official capacity, even if they're alleged to be erroneous or malicious. So that's a big problem. And I've told you guys this before. Or you can show like extreme bias or that the judge acted in absence of jurisdiction. So, and that's Stump versus Sparkman, and that's 435 U.S. 349. It's a 1978 case. All right. Now, the immunity extends to civil rights lawsuits for defamation, and that's going to be one of the problems that he's going to face. It also extends to malicious prosecution arising from judicial acts. So Zimmerman's actions, presiding over DeCastro, confiscating his phone, sentencing him, and denying bail, will be argued as being within her discretion as a justice of the peace. So that's going to be a tough one for him to overcome. Now, his claims that she was biased or acted tyrannically don't negate her immunity automatically. And her error as a judge typically isn't going to negate that either or constitute a lack of jurisdiction. I'm just telling you based on my experience, having been practicing law for over 20 years, I just don't see it. Now, his allegations that she violated his rights, First Amendment, are going to be very difficult to overcome as far as immunity is concerned, because they probably are going to be deemed to relate to her judicial decisions. So I'm just letting you know that's my take on it. I could be wrong. I'm just telling you what my understanding of the law is. Now, absolute immunity makes it nearly impossible to sue Judge Zimmerman successfully. Now, a lot of people are saying that Chille is in trouble for using AI and I guess ChatGPT to try to help him understand stuff. Well, I don't know that would even apply to Chille. I know that there have been some judges who've strike that. There have been some lawyers who have gotten into trouble for using AI and ChatGPT and stuff. But I don't think that would apply to a pro se litigant. They're not held to the same standard as a judge. So I just have a bunch of notes here, so forgive me if I'm scatological in my approach here. So for him to succeed in a defamation claim, he's got to prove a false statement published to a third party causing reputational harm and made with negligence or actual malice. So for public figures like Lackluster, if you were going to say something about Lackluster that was defamatory, or if you were going to say something that was defamatory about Chille, since they're public figures, you would also have to add the additional allegation of malice. You'd have to prove that these statements were made maliciously with a knowing falsity. And that's more difficult to prove, and that's the New York Times versus Sullivan case. And you basically have to show that they were made with a reckless disregard for the truth. So, with respect to Chille's defamation case, because a lot of these alleged defamatory statements were probably made within Judge Zimmerman's capacity as a judge, like he hates every law enforcement officer or wants to get arrested to boost his channel, it is highly likely that those statements will be protected under the doctrine of absolute judicial privilege. is because they were made during a judicial proceeding. As much as I don't like that just my understanding of the law, that's a big hurdle for Chille to overcome. So even if they were construed as opinions, they're not going to be actionable unless they imply provably false facts. And she can argue that Chille's public persona as a police critic and his courtroom behavior support her statements undermining claims of falsity or malice. So my thought here is that his real case against her lies with the Commission, or California's equivalent of the Commission on Judicial Performance. And the Commission on Judicial Performance, I would say, would look at those statements as pretty damning because it shows serious bias. And to me, it shows that she's unfit to be a judicial officer if she's making statements like that about somebody in her court, especially since the case was reversed on appeal based upon First Amendment, that he has the right to do this stuff. So I don't know. So to me, that's where I think this case goes. And then Tommy Wood says it's all about damages coming. What damages is he suing for? No damages equals no lawsuit. Okay, we'll talk about that in a minute. There's two cases. So his YouTube videos calling Zimmerman a tyrant and accusing her of bias might potentially weaken his defamation case against her, perhaps, because they could be deemed retaliatory and invite counterclaims by the judge. So that's what she would argue. Okay, I'm just telling you, I'm playing devil's advocate here, so don't hate me. All right, I'm just saying this is probably what she would argue and counter. So whether or not the defamation claim can succeed based on the doctrine of absolute judicial immunity and judicial privilege, and whether or not Chille is going to be able to show actual malice is going to be tough, but it's not impossible. So the problem is on a 12b6, for example, the trial judge in the federal case, the federal court could decide that it's a problem and dismiss the case, maybe. So the civil rights violations, First Amendment, this is the other issue besides defamation. So, right, what's the matter, you? I got you. So Chille could argue that Judge Zimmerman is arguing that she violated his First Amendment rights, she confiscated his phone, she punished him for protected speech, and because of this, she violated Title 42, Section 1983, and because she's a state actor, and she clearly violated his First Amendment rights, which would overcome these doctrines of immunity. Now, Judge Zimmerman's confiscation of his phone was based on her denial of his media request to record the hearing, and would probably be deemed a discretionary act within her authority to manage courtroom proceedings. Courts routinely do this to maintain order. The courts pretty much have control over everything that goes on in the courtroom, so that's going to be a tough one. Now, the fact that the convictions were overturned definitely suggests that his First Amendment argument has merit. So that's where I definitely agree with this part of the case. So there might be some issues there where he might have some chances of a better chance of success in these arguments. His claim of retaliatory sentencing, she'll probably argue that it's speculative, and because of his alleged courtroom misconduct, that's a problem. So yeah, I definitely don't have the hots for her. Hey, what's going on, James Forbes? Good seeing you. Kinetic Customs and Racing. Let me clear my throat, right? Yeah, you definitely can call someone a dunce cap, Greg B, because that's a statement of opinion. But if you call someone a sexual-predator, that is a statement of fact, and that definitely will harm your reputation, and that is considered libel per se or slander per se, depending on the context with which it was presented to a third party. So yes. Now, most of the appellate judges that I've spoken to, and again, I used to extern for the Court of Appeal, in other jurisdictions believe that these claims probably are going to fail under the doctrine of judicial immunity and lack of evidence, that the sentencing decision, though harsh, was not within her discretion. And since judicial immunity protects her for judicial acts, this is going to be a tough one. So a lot of people feel that the claims are unlikely to succeed. Now, he's also going to be facing procedural and practical challenges. He's got a litigation history, but he has not been declared a vexatious litigant, so I don't know if that's going to come into play or not. Some people have said online that his reliance on AI is a problem and self-representation is a problem. I don't know. I don't even know that he relied on AI. I think what he does is he does his initial research, like a lot of lawyers do, using AI, and then they shepherdize and they do additional research at the law library. So I don't think that that's got a lot of valid precedent to wash out his cases. Now, his appellate lawyer, Christopher Oram, did argue that Judge Zimmerman should have recused herself due to her bias. But again, that's a high bar. Bias typically is extrajudicial outside the courtroom. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I want him to be able to be successful in his endeavors, but I also have to tell you, as a lawyer, this is my research on the law. Now, he may have additional facts or evidence that I'm not aware of. Definitely the reversal of the conviction strengthens his case. There's no question about that. Now, if he engages in ongoing attacks against Zimmerman or these other parties in the defamation cases, it could weaken his claim and potentially poison the jury against him. So that's another thing I do. I always encourage my clients, if you're suing someone, stop talking about them. Stop bringing it up, because what you don't want to do is poison your case against them. Now, I think that his other claims have a lot more teeth. I think the claims against the police are very strong. And I think if I was the Nevada Police Department, I would want to settle my cases with Chille. And if I was licensed in Nevada, I would represent Chille on these defamation claims. Strike that, on the First Amendment claims against the Nevada police. Because I think that they did engage in a prior restraint on speech, and I think that they exceeded the allowable use of force. And I think that they should understand that people are out there filming and that they're engaged in First Amendment auditing, and it's just part of life. So that's the way I would look at that. Let me see here. So I don't have any information about any new rulings as of May 31st of 2025. So if you've got any more details about his cases, please let me know. And you don't have reciprocity in Nevada justice for Jessica Gomez unless I sit for the Nevada bar. So, and I have no intentions right now, especially with my sciatica, of trying to run a business, getting therapy for my injuries, and trying to sit for a new bar exam. I'm already licensed in California and Texas, and just dealing with the MCLE requirements and all the additional crap I have to do and bar fees, it's just a lot. And I've already got a lot of pressure on me to get into the Arizona bar, I think the Arizona bar will waive me in, because I do have enough time in grade. But again, the problem with the Arizona bar is just getting on an airplane right now, like sitting in this park bench, my whole left leg is on fire. So I've got this major swollen bulging disc that's just got me on fire. So does anybody have any questions? And by the way, anybody who knows any of these other defendants, if they want to come on and they want to come on and present their side of the case, they can. It's not a problem. Hey, Patrick, good seeing you, man. There you go. Okay, so Patrick Darcy just joined me, and I know a lot of you guys, if you're big Chille supporters, you don't like him. Like it or not, Patrick is a colleague, and he's presenting an alternative view of these cases. And so I don't have any issues with him presenting alternative views. Patrick and I get along just fine. So give me a bunch of ones for Patrick having the balls to show up on this channel with so many people potentially hostile to him. And by the way, Patrick, I have no issues in even doing a show with you to try and get your side of the story. I know you've got more experience than me. I'm not going to sit there and say that I'm a better lawyer than you. My background is more in catastrophic injury claims, tight handcuff cases, and police shooting cases. But what Patrick is saying, well, because Patrick, a lot of people, unfortunately, if you don't have an opinion that's exactly like theirs, won't like you, okay? I'm hoping that they all will like you, but I'm just saying that my experience with the auditor community in general, or the First Amendment community, is it's very much personality based, and if you don't support their guy 100% lock, stock, and barrel, they won't support you. And I'm of the mind that we can be colleagues and friends and still not believe everything that one another has to say, so long as we don't engage in disparaging comments and try to insult each other. But again, that's because I'm a lawyer and I've been educated by an appellate justice, and I just have a different way of handling my business. But Patrick, I believe you're right. He could use his litigation privilege by litigating in the press, at least in California, and that is true. So yeah, that is true. And let me see here. So Patrick says, I gave Chille the case that negated jail time. That's true. That is true. Hold on. So I'm going to take my anti, what do they call this? My anti-graphene. Got to take one of my ons. So they say that nicotine can counter the effects of this mRNA and this stuff that they're trying to put into our body. So I've been taking it to try and do that. So yeah, Patrick, look, man, I still think you got big balls to come on, because I know a lot of people will hold things. I already know right now, for me, pointing out the weaknesses in the case, a lot of people are going to hate me, but I'm not going to sit there and blow smoke up someone's ass. I think it's going to be a tough case with respect to the judge. Life Under, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it later. We'll talk about the nicotine. So Life Under's got me back into the high protein diet. Hey, Kevin, good seeing you, brother. Well, I appreciate that, Simba B. I do appreciate his opinions, and that's the way you want to handle it. So what Simba B says is the way that I would say it. I respect Patrick's opinion, but I respectfully disagree. I've been in May lives and court cases and know firsthand what is happening to Lane Myers. Well, okay. And then Patrick says, I did a video for Chille that showed the statutes were unconstitutional. That is true. You did do that. Yeah. So, but yeah, you know, we're all going to have our different points of view. Now, Patrick, you can tell me if you think I'm wrong. I think that Chille has a relatively strong case against the police. And I think that because he's a pro per litigant, that the grammar mistakes, even if he does rely on AI, punctuation errors and all that, aren't going to be a big deal. And I'm the first to admit that in the heavy litigation that I've been in, I've filed stuff that just is garbage. The stuff that you would rip apart, man, worse than Chille's, and I've still won. And typically I win my cases on oral argument. So you file your stuff. Typically the judge has already had a tentative in favor of the opposing party. And after I'm done with oral argument, the judge takes it under submission and rules in my favor. So my strong suit is being able to make my case orally in front of the court. So, and Tommy Wood, I absolutely, if you're asking me, do I believe in pro se, pro per? Absolutely. I think if you're smart enough and you're capable enough, and Patrick, I think you're right, that anybody who's representing themselves should have access to Lexis or Westlaw, no question about it. And so guys, Lexis or Westlaw is basically just a electronic way to access a law library. And I'm an old school guy. I like to go to the law library. I like to start with the books and then work my way into the pocket parts and into the latest cases. And shepherdize it that way, just because that's what I learned on. But I do prefer Westlaw over Lexis. And Patrick, you've been practicing a lot longer than me, bro. And I know that that Lexus came out before Westlaw, as far as being able to shepherdize online. So I could understand why you prefer Lexus. But yeah, James Forbes says old school all the way. I just like the old way of doing things. And so, and now Mr. Tomey says that AI will replace lawyers. That may be the case. I don't know. I'm hoping that I can stop practicing law and do stuff that I love, like helping you guys do stuff online and being an advocate for things that I believe in, like government accountability, and ultimately move with my family down to El Salvador and get out of here before the commies destroy this country worse than they already have. I just think this country's on life support right now. I mean, we've got 20 million illegals that have been flooded into our country, a lot of them criminals, and we've got one political party trying to keep them here. We know they're trying to use the United States Census to redistrict everything blue, using illegal alien bodies and the sanctuary state system to do that. So I think that America is going to end up like communist China at some point. But absolutely, we'll bring the extended family down there with us, Life Under. You want to come down to El Salvador with me? Man, what a magical place. The people of El Salvador are so kind and considerate and just beautiful people. My wife is Salvadorian. My kids are citizens. It's just it's like night and day compared to what we're doing here in the U.S. So, well, Tyler, since Bukele locked up all the criminals, there's no reason to have armed guards in El Salvador. I would say it's probably, me as somebody who goes there pretty much every year, is probably the safest country on the planet. So I would say that is a fair statement. But just really, really good people. And that's the thing, you know, they believe that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. Oh, thank you, Patrick. That was kind. So Patrick says Mike wins at oral argument because he is a master debater and a cunning linguist. And a lot of the ladies would say a cunnilingus as well, a cunning cunnilingus. Did I say that right? Oh, Tyler, I would say it's 1,000,000 times safer than Sweden. Sweden, I think, is right. I know that South Africa is the RAPE capital of the world, but that since it's been flooded with sub-Saharan Africans up in Sweden and people from Islamic countries, that I think it's the RAPE rate in Sweden and Norway are higher than anywhere else in Europe now. And of course, the government tries to hide that and conceal that from the public because they're the ones who have destroyed the country. So why would they allow that? So, hey, awesome, Gloria. Thank you. Gloria, I think, just became, re-updated her membership to, she's now another Lance Corporal, part of my paid subscriber group. And Jeff Hates Pig says, I would hate to have to sue myself for voicing my opinions. Tommy Wood says, I don't follow you, but I appreciate your honesty and knowledge. May not agree with everything you say because it means I'm wrong. Good luck to you. And thanks for the love, mods. Yeah, Tommy Wood, good seeing you, brother. Always love having you guys. One thing I don't like is when people just blindly follow me and agree with me. I am a natural law advocate, and I'm not into this cult thing. The less you agree with me, the better. The only thing that I want you to agree with me on is that our rights come from a creator, not from the state. Just like it says in the unanimous declaration. I believe in natural law, so I'm a natural law advocate. So if you agree with me on that, I think that we'll be in good stead. I think everything else is sort of up to you. I would say the less you agree with me, the better. That's the whole point of being an American. So just the key fundamental things are what I agree with is natural law, that our rights come from our creator, not from Slick Willie or the World Economic Forum or things like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk back to my crib. Hopefully my battery won't die before now and then, and I'll keep you guys on, and I'll just try to answer questions. Let me get some creatine and some glutamine really quick. And yes, just to be clear, Chille is a dear friend of mine. and I care about him a lot. And I'd give the guy the shirt off my back. So Chille and I don't always see eye to eye on everything. But I know that if I was under fire, that he would be there to help me. And those are the kind of friends that we all need in our lives. So there you go. And I would be a fool to sit there and try to agree with him on everything. And I know that he doesn't agree with me on everything. And I think that I never said once today that I think he's going to lose his cases or that they're going to fail. But what I have said, he's going to have a tough time with Zimmerman because of judicial immunity. But I have a lot of respect for him for going after her and trying. And if I was him, I would do the same exact thing. And so now with respect to the Lackluster guy, if he is who I think he is, I think I like his channel. I don't follow him that much. And I guess I operated under the presumption that he's one of these frauditor guys at the beginning of the show, because it looks like it's the frauditor guys who are constantly defaming me and Chille and anyone else who wants to hold the government accountable. And I've got a problem with people like that. And I also have friends who are law enforcement. I'm not going to lie about that either. A lot of my friends are inactive U.S. Marines. A lot of them are sheriffs. And I've represented many of them in whistleblower cases. And there's a lot of cops out there who joined the police department because they wanted to uphold and defend their oath to protect the Constitution. And they found out after they got those jobs that unless they went along with the whole thin blue line thing and went along with things that are illegal and unconstitutional, that they would be basically disparaged and have their careers threatened. And that's a real problem. So I don't like that. I'm one of these guys who wants to encourage all of you guys to, if you have a problem with the police or with your government, to get active in the community and become an activist. Run for mayor, run for school board, and do things like that. So what do you guys think? Give me a bunch of ones if you agree that if you have a problem with overreaching government, if you have a problem with bad cops, become a peace officer yourself and try to change the system from within. Now, I know Rami will disagree. Rami will be absolutely not. What's the matter? You disagrees. But you're not going to see me disparaging these guys. I have a different point of view when it comes to this, because I do believe, like when my dad grew up, the cops were peace officers. My dad and his buddies would drag race on the 22 freeway while it was under construction, and the cops would come and watch. I mean, back then they weren't trying to raise revenue. They were doing community policing, and they did a lot of good. They did a lot of good. So, but obviously me being the victim of a false arrest and being beat up by a piece of shit scumbag West Covina cop, which is what started me on my journey to becoming a lawyer with no law degree. I know that these guys, a lot of them are scum, and that they shouldn't be anywhere near an office of public trust. So I have that going for me, that I'm not one of these thin blue line guys either. I have my own belief system, and it doesn't always comport with yours exactly. You're right, the tribe. The cameras changed the misperception. Absolutely. So that's the problem. So when I was doing this back years ago, when we were saying you don't need a driver's license, and we were driving around with British West Indies plates on our cars and doing all that stuff, we didn't have the advantage of all this modern technology. And when I would tell people, hey, this guy just flat out attacked me, he had no right. And by the way, I sued the guy under Title 42, Section 1983 and won. And I got the bullshit resisting arrest charge dismissed. But it took almost 2 years to do that, and probably put a lot of years on me, and completely changed my view of the government and the police and how things really work. So it's a problem. And see how cool that is? Staying in shape, getting out there, doing a little bit of a workout, Trying not to get run over by these crazy soccer moms. But let me see here. Kinetic Custom says our forefathers warned against judicial branch and specifically usurpation and the fact that they could steal power. Oh, no question about it. Absolutely. I'm trying to read these comments and walk at the same time. We need more cameras on our public servants and less on the public. Well, no question about that, Simba B. So yeah, so that's kind of a problem, is that we have, and now, hey, listen, so Trump just approved this thing, and there's a lot of things about Trump that he does that I like, but there's just as many things about him that I don't. And the problem that I have with both you political parties is you toe the party line, and it's really sad. So this thing that Trump's doing with Palantir, trying to use AI, right? And Palantir is an evil company, in my opinion, because I don't want to get busted for defamation, to do this AI surveillance of our lives. I mean, this is getting really scary, guys. I want to move to a third world country that doesn't have all this technology, because I don't want some hardcore Marxist scumbag, some blue-haired mafia person over at NSA surveilling me, surveilling my thoughts. Now they even have this proactive AI thing that they're trying to do in some states, where they try to arrest someone because they think they might commit a crime based upon their prior actions. And we've seen that happen. So it's getting really bad. So take a look at the Palantir thing. And then we saw the Republicans just the other day defeat the Hearing Protection Act. And as you guys know, I am a Second Amendment rights advocate. And I believe that we need to have suppressors. So that really pissed me off. So another reason why I'm a libertarian. So a lot of you guys may say, oh, you're a contrarian, you need to toe the political line. No, I definitely don't like the Marxist Democrats. I mean, trying to tell little boys that they're girls and body part mutilation and all that, that's just sick. It's child abuse. I believe that they're doing that because all their buddies were hanging out at Epstein Island and P. Diddy parties, so they're trying to normalize relations with adults and children so they can change legislation. So once those records finally come out, those people can't be prosecuted. That's my belief, that they're doing all this. They're trying to push all this disgusting, horrible, horrid behavior and pass laws so that they can shield themselves for what are crimes in the future when the records like Epstein Island and the P. Diddy evidence comes out. Because I would say guys like, I don't know, you whatever political person you want to talk about, they go to these weird parties and all this satanic Luciferian crap that they do, and they finally got busted. And of course, we know that the FBI allegedly lost all of the videotapes from Epstein Island, which we know is a lie. All their buddies. So that's a problem. Yeah. And of course, Mr. Tomei sounds like somebody who works for the Democrat National Committee. It's not propaganda, buddy. I've represented parents in California where the public schools have tried to transition their children behind their parents' backs. And when the parents go against it, because the police are mandatory reporters, they can say that it's a hate crime for the parents not to support their child coming out. And they've had Child Protective Services take their kids away. So you have no idea what you're talking about. It's not propaganda, it's real. And this is a law that was passed by the California legislature, the single-party Marxist Stalinist state of California. And if you're a parent, I highly recommend that you homeschool your children and get them as far away from the public school system as you can. And I think the university system is no better. It's pushing this critical theory. Used to be called critical theory. Now they call it critical race theory. And basically it's a Marxist proposition that you should judge people based upon the color of their skin, which is absurd. It goes against everything that I was taught growing up. I come from the era of the real civil rights era. I grew up right after I was one of the first generations to grow up after the Civil Rights Act, Martin Luther King. So I was always taught that you judge people by their character, not by their skin color, which is the exact opposite of what's being taught to children nowadays. And that has nothing to do with Fox News or any of that kind of stuff. I don't watch regular news. I know the left is really upset that conservatives finally got their own news channel when after about 60 years all it was pro-Democrat news, and that all the Democrat-run news media is going under. But it is what it is. For me, being a libertarian is where I feel safe, because I have the ability to disagree with the party line. I can form my own opinions and conclusions without going along with whatever George Soros wants me to think. Give me a bunch of ones if you guys agree with me. Give me a bunch of twos if you think I'm a racist, bigot, and a homophobe for simply having my own opinion that doesn't comport with yours. All right. So let's see if we've got any other ones. That's right. Life Under says that it's 50-50 there. Both news stations are basically political. I would agree with that. Fox is pretty political. Communist News Network, CNN, is highly political. In my opinion, anti-American, pro-Marxist, anti-white male for sure. Very racist, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, remember, Fox News, a lot of people call it faux news, is owned by the same person who owns the New York Times, a highly left-wing, anti-American newspaper, in my opinion. And my thought on all this, guys, is that both forms of news, left or right, is controlled opposition. Just like AI. I mean, AI doesn't give you both sides. It gives you a very far left narrative. And you can't even find an alternative view using AI. At least with the old search engines like Yahoo and Google, you could at least find an alternative point of view. We see that Google always pushes the far left narrative to the very first page, no matter what search you do. But if you go to maybe result 80,000, you might find the one that you're looking for. But with AI, you won't be able to find that at all. So, and even though I don't really agree with Elon Musk, I think he's also one of these one world dudes. He put his CEO of X is a World Economic Forum young world leader or whatever. And he believes in the universal basic income and all the same stuff the World Economic Forum pushes. So I think that he's probably like an undercover agent of the globalists. I do like the fact that with X, at least you have some free speech, at least for a while. I mean, prior to him, if you said anything bad about Sleepy Joe or the Democrats, your account would be immediately suspended. I mean, it was ridiculous. So I'm kind of happy about that. But anyways, guys, I'm going to go ahead and try to get squared away, get some work done. Hopefully you're not mad at me for my breakdown of what I think the potential chances of success are on the cases. But I just wanted to give you my legal opinion based on my point of view in the law on what I think the likelihood of success is going to be. So with that being said, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. Thank you guys for all your donations and everything like that. God bless everybody.